Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates and another Star Wars Outlaws video. If you haven't seen my review yet, I just finished the game yesterday and I figured I would share my best tips and tricks with you all, as I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of you jumping onto the game either tonight or in 3 days when the official release of the game happens. These are a lot of things that I either found out when I was playing myself, and even some of these tips I figured out after I already finished the entire main story, which is why I thought it might be a good idea to share it with you. I'm not gonna spoil like how to complete certain story elements or things like that, but tips that I wish that I knew when I started Star Wars Outlaws. So let's get straight into it. Fast travel is something that they don't really introduce in any way in the game, at least not that I noticed. I simply accidentally happened to notice fast travel when I was looking on the map. And the fast travel seems to work always to your ship, to points of interest on the map, and also within cities where you don't have access to your speeder bike. It was a little bit inconsistent. Some planets had less fast travel points than others, but in general, if you know you have a long travel ahead of you, check your map and see if you have a fast travel point, and you can just click it and you will instantly teleport there. In the beginning, I kind of took my speeder bike or walked around just to get, a feel for the game, but after a while when you've ran the same path multiple times, the fast travel comes in very handy. Also worth noting that this fast travel actually works in between planets, so if you don't want to go through the hassle of going through a ship, flying into space, using the light speed button, and then going down on the planet, you can simply within a couple of seconds teleport to fast travel points on other planets. Obviously it's not as cool as flying your ship there, but if you want to do it and save some time, well, the fast travel is there for you. This might be obvious, but make sure to loot everywhere. Look around every corner and open every canister. All of these material that you find will come in very handy, both because a lot of the valuables you find you can sell to vendors for hard cash, but also because you're gonna need a lot of those things when you're crafting your upgrades for your gear, abilities, or blaster. So just loot everywhere, basically. Next up, I highly recommend you all to go into the settings for a couple of things. Obviously, this is all personal preference, but I recommend you first of all to just go in there overall and see if there's anything that sounds like it would help you out. But for me, for instance, I turned off the film grain the first thing I did because I thought the film grain was just way too much in the game. But also, something very helpful is that you can turn off the minigames whenever you're slicing into something or hacking a terminal. Obviously, I did those minigames for a while in the beginning, but after you've done it like 20-30 times, it kind of just gets tedious. So you can turn off the minigames and you will basically instantly bypass all of those things in the game. That's all up to you. And in general, the settings on this game are really good when it comes to graphics, difficulty, UI. So take a look at the settings the first thing you do and see if there's anything you can adjust for your liking. A more gameplay specific tip is that if you want to get end game outfits or end game gear fairly early in the game, try focusing on one syndicate and basically take all of their contracts, all of their syndicate quests, and when you get syndicate data, turn that into one of their merchants too. This way you will reach the maximum level pretty quickly, but like I said in my review, unfortunately I kind of just plowed through the main story, so I wasn't able to max out my reputation, but even though I did barely any side stuff at all, I still almost maxed out Crimson Dawn. So even though it is possible to focus on multiple syndicates, I would recommend focusing on one of them at first if you want to get the end game gear as fast as possible. When you are traversing the world, you might get stuck sometimes, but the best thing you can do is look for yellow markers. These yellow arrow markers will indicate which way you need to go, and usually whatever you need to climb or jump to will also have a yellow marker, making it easier for you to find it. So basically I have two tips whenever you get stuck trying to get somewhere. Look for yellow markers and look for things that you can't reach but Nyx can. Multiple times I was like, there's no way I can walk or jump here. And then I remembered Nyx can, so I used Nyx to go through a small gap, walk a small line, and to open a hatch or something like that, allowing you to progress the story. So whenever you're stuck, look for yellow markers or places that Nyx can reach. One thing that's good to know in regards to the alarm is that some sections of the game you have to stealth, and if you get caught you instantly get thrown out, usually when you try to get into a syndicate headquarters. In other sections you can just plow through with a blaster if you prefer to, and then there's like the middle ground where you're not allowed to alert the alarm, but you can still shoot people if you want. What you need to keep your eye out on here though is that there's usually alarms around that map where some of the enemies will actually run to and try to alert the alarm, at which point you lose. So when you see this little icon slowly filling up, you have a very short window of time that you need to kill them before they fully trigger the alarm. So look out for this icon, and also if you do see any of these alarm stations, you can actually sabotage them so that they're inactive. So in order to still be able to go in the guns blazing, shoot the people alerting the alarm or sabotage the alarm stations. This might seem like an obvious one, but you have something called like the adrenaline ability. You see this little adrenaline bar to the down right filling up whenever you're on a speeder, in combat, or anything like that. And once it's fully charged up, you can pull off a Lando sharp shot maneuver, basically like in Battlefront 2, where you lock onto 3 enemies and then blast them. Use this as much as you can, as this blaster shot is really powerful. It will one-shot normal troopers and roughly do 50% damage on the elite troopers. And while we're talking about the blaster, make sure to swap your blaster type all the time. You obviously have the normal plasma shot, ion shot, and explosive shot. And I think the most important thing is the ion shot, because pretty much all the droids and shields will be one-shot by the ion shot, so it's always worth swapping to it mid-combat to take out the shield and then finish them off, or blow up the droids in one shot, because the droids are really strong and hard to kill if you use your normal blaster. Use the ion shot in particular as much as you can. And lastly, we have a quite important section, which is nicks, because even though I've played 16 hours of this game, I learned some new things very late in the game that would be very helpful early in the game. First of all, try to always prime your battle with nicks to make it easier, like in this instant. Steal a sniper rifle before you even enter into combat, and you can suddenly take out all the pikes so easily. Or distract an enemy so you can kill them from the back, or simply attack the enemy with nicks. Just make sure to use nicks as much as you can, because there's really no downside. Nicks can't be caught, nicks can't be killed, so use nicks as much as you can. And if you don't want to bring up this entire nicks menu and choose what to do, you can just use the quick action, which is the same button that you hold down to pick nicks action. If you click the quick action button, nicks will simply do the closest possible action, which is usually attack anyone nearby. There's also a protect K mode you can activate by holding down 2 buttons at once, and I'm gonna say that I honestly didn't know about this until after I finished the game. So if you want to have nicks be a little bit more automatic, use the quick action and use the protect K action in order to make sure that you don't have to manually select every little thing that nicks has to do. It's very easy to do that before the battle starts, but not so much when you're in the heat of the battle. And lastly, don't forget to use Nick's Sense. Press B or up on the D-pad, it will show enemies, objectives and cables through the wall, meaning that you don't have to reveal yourself in order to look around. Yet another thing that I used quite a bit but constantly forgot about and had to remind myself, use that as much as possible. And that's probably the main tip for this entire video. Use nicks as much as you possibly can, because there's absolutely no downside to it. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope it's gonna be helpful for all of you jumping into Star Wars Outlaws this week. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.